Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for tonight's vBrownBag. We're going to be talking automation, vSphere, automating vSphere with Ansible and GitLab CI. And to do that, we have our expert panelist, Chris Arceneaux. A little housekeeping before we get started. We're very active on Twitter. We use the account at vBrownBag. I'll be following the hashtag vBrownBag on Twitter for any questions, comments, heckling that's going to come from the audience. And please heckle. It's Chris's first time, so we're going to do our best to make him feel welcome the way we do. While we are the US show, there are other feeds from around the world in different time zones, and you can always catch the latest schedule at vbrownbag.com/brownbags, and it will be up to date by the end of the show for what's coming up next as we're transitioning through the end of our Azure series into some other very exciting things. With the housekeeping done, I'm going to hand it over to Chris. As I get the transition going, if you want to start introducing yourself.
Okie dokie. My name is Chris Arceneaux. I'm an automation engineer at SIS. Let me share my screen. And this is my contact info. Of course, now that I think about it, I probably could have changed it for my work email, but it works. You have my email. More importantly, you have my Twitter and then my blog. I will mention that within the next week, I will be adding a couple of new articles centered around what we're talking about tonight. So if there's some code that you want, or you want more of like a walkthrough blog style setup, you'll be able to get this on my blog within the next week as well. Okie dokie. That is all I have for slides. At this point, really, the stars, yeah.
You mean that we're going live? All live demo?
Yeah, all live. I wanted to get everybody excited and show everybody some cool things that I've found, and how I found that they can work well together and really bring your automation to the next level.
The only thing that can make it better is if you're saying the stuff that you're showing us is all free too.
This totally sounds canned. It's only halfway, by the way, everybody. It is, all the things you're seeing right here are open source and free. You can pay for some of these products, but they do have open source products, free products available to you. So everything that you see here, with the exception maybe of setting up a lab, right? Because I've got some VMware stuff involved in here. When it comes to GitLab CI and Ansible, the things that I'll be showing you are all open source type stuff. Okie dokie. So the stars for this presentation are Ansible and GitLab CI. The question is, what is GitLab CI? Well, I'm sure most of y'all have heard of GitLab, GitLab.com. They also have, GitLab also has a community free version of GitLab that you can run on-prem or at your house for free. Works very well. My company, we actually use the free version of GitLab on-prem, and it works great. And it has access to a ton of features, as we're about to show here. For the efforts of this demonstration, everything is going to be taking place off of GitLab.com, and so you'll be able to see how things are working together and whatnot. Really, whenever it comes down to it, GitLab is mostly known as a provider of Git repos, right? However, they have much more. As we're going to show, one of the things that they can offer is GitLab CI, which is their CI/CD platform, continuous integration, continuous deployment platform, as well as a container registry for Docker containers and whatnot. And you'll get to see how, very briefly, how we're using that as well. So let's get started. So I actually started with GitLab CI just probably a couple months ago. I found it by happenstance. I was actually messing around with some open source stuff out there on GitHub actually, and I found Travis CI, which has a lot of similarities to GitLab CI. But the biggest thing here, which makes me really fall in love with GitLab CI, is all your automated testing and your pipeline is all defined in this file right here, the .gitlab-ci.yaml. I went down a path of like testing Jenkins and things like that, and the problem that I had with Jenkins, albeit it's very powerful, is that the kind of shop that I work in, we're not doing software development, right? We're writing, onesie twosie scripts. We have a couple things that can be considered maybe closer to software development, but most of that's not what I do, right? Most of that, it's writing scripts to automate certain tasks or create reports or different things like that. As I'm sure most of the attendees here, because we focus more on infrastructure, VMware, right? And I didn't like the fact that in Jenkins, for every single GitLab or Git project, Git repo that I had to go create a Jenkins job for it and define all of that, the pipeline and whatnot. Whereas with GitLab CI, I was able to define that entire pipeline in a text file, YAML file, and then, as a lot of the automations that I'm creating are similar, whenever I go to create a new automation, the scripts and the automation, the testing that I develop for one can totally be applied for another. And without me having to go external and go to another system to do all this, quite literally, I can just copy and paste this code into another project, GitLab project. And whenever I go do a commit, GitLab will see this code and it will execute whatever it is I've told it to do. So let's get into it.
So Graham asked before we get started, is GitLab CI open source as well, or is there a free cut down version?
Totally, it comes in the free version. Yeah, right here is a free GitLab.com account. So you can actually, I'll actually go ahead and show y'all real fast. So I'm in my project. This one's called Ansible Test. And I go down to my settings and I click CI/CD, and then I can expand on this runners area here. And in here, you'll notice two types of runners, okay? You'll see specific runners, and then you'll see shared runners. So the shared runners are exactly as they sound. They're runners that GitLab.com has set up for you to use, okay? And you can actually run that code that I just showed you on the GitLab CI YAML file, and they would actually run against these shared runners by default. Because of what I'm doing, and I'm working with a on-prem vCenter server for a lot of my Ansible calls that we're going to be working with today, I disabled this, and I actually stood up a GitLab runner on my MacBook, which is what I'm giving this off of right now. So
and this is available on-prem as well, correct? On the free GitLab on-premises version.
Exactly. Yeah, GitLab's pretty open about it. Whatever they give you for free in their SaaS model, they're also giving you for free on the on-prem version as well. Yep. I won't go into details on how to install the runners, the different kinds of runners. GitLab has excellent documentation. If you navigated to one of these, you can say install GitLab runner. If you're running, I will say, if you're running the on-prem version, right, you can actually deploy your own shared runners, right? Because that's like an administrative function. If you're using the SaaS model like this, you don't want to use the shared ones, you're going to have to deploy a runner for every single project that you use. So that's kind of an advantage of using the on-prem version of GitLab. So let's go see the code. So we got a couple files in here. The first one we're going to start off with is we're going to run an Ansible playbook called Hello World. Every automation, whenever you start with it, whatever programming language, you got to start with Hello World, right? It's the norm. And so let me walk you through what we're doing here. Then I'll execute the CI/CD for it, and you'll get to see what's going on. So what we have right here in this before script section is actually installing prerequisites. Okay, and every single one of these, it's executing it off of a CentOS image, because that's my default image that I've specified outside of here. Albeit, if I wanted to use a different image, I could specify a specific image. As you'll see how those play in. And all I'm doing here is I'm installing Python, I'm installing pip, I'm installing Ansible, and then I'm outputting the versions of those to verify they were installed successfully. After that, you're going to see that I'm going to run this playbook called Hello World, and then we'll get to this piece in a sec. So let's hop over here. I've already got this. This is Visual Studio Code. I've already got this opened up. And let's just make some nondescript change. We'll add an extra key in there. We'll save. We'll say added a space. Okay. And now we're going. I've made my change. I've made my commit. And I'm going to sync back up with Papa GitLab. So we go back over here, and we see added a space 16 seconds ago, and commits pending. So here's where you get to really see the cool stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna go into here. What you're gonna notice whenever you have like a full-on pipeline, because right now this isn't really a pipeline; it's just one simple action, right? But whenever you have different pipelines, like stages for testing and QA and all this, they show up as different actions up in here. So we're gonna hop in here. We're going to go. Started 36 seconds ago. So the way this works is I installed GitLab Run on my Mac, like I mentioned. If I execute a Docker PS, okay, you're going to see this container running. This is the GitLab container run. Okay, so this GitLab runner is actually the one that GitLab.com has been talking to. It doesn't talk to it all the time, which is why we had to wait like 30 or 40 seconds for it to actually kick off, because I think it's like once or twice a minute that it talks. So now we see that it's actually running. We see it's running on this version of GitLab Runner, running on my MacBook. It's using the Docker image for CentOS, because I told you I'd make that my standard. And now we see it's actually running through all the different commands that I had specified in that GitLab CI YAML. Okay, cooler yet, if I go run a Docker PS over here, you'll actually see that CentOS container up and running. Okay, it's been spun up. And I'm not going to lie, something like this, installing these prerequisites can take some time. Normally, I think it's 2 to 3 minutes if we're just going to go standard and install these. And that's where it comes in to play, which I'll show you just a little bit after this, about how you start to recognize very quickly that if you're going this route, the CI/CD, you want to create your own containers, have things created on the fly, your code tested and run at the same time. You start to really see where you need to be creating your own containers that have the prerequisite software installed on it that you want. And that might seem like some big obstacle, right? But it really isn't, as I'm about to show you on just a little bit. We saw this one actually completed fairly quickly because it's getting to the tail end of it, okay? And boom, it took 1 minute and 58 seconds for this to take place, okay? That's full on installing all of the prerequisites. And then after it finished those, it ran those final 2 commands. It executed my Ansible playbook, and then it catted this file or listed the contents of this file. So if we go back to, you know what, I'll leave this here. Let's go back here. Let's go look and see what's in that hello world.yaml.
So while you're pulling up this,
Yeah.
the question came in, what's a good plugin for VS Code since the YAML syntax is a pain in the rear end?
I think it recommended one for me. You know, I don't really remember. Let's enabled. I think it just recommended one for me whenever I opened it. Or it just had it by default, unless Python included some stuff in there. Doesn't look like I have one included by default. Typically, whenever you go to open up in VS Code, you go to open up a new document type. If VS Code doesn't have support for that document type, it will actually go out to the marketplace and it will say, hey, I noticed that we don't support this. However, we recommend installing this, right? And I'm fairly certain it was one of those type options. And boom, we got YAML support. So if we go to this hello world file, we see it's very simple. The name, we see the host, self, right? Keep in mind, in this instance, the 127.0.0.1 is actually the CentOS Docker container that we spun up, right? Local connection, and then here's the meat of it. Here's the things that we want to happen, okay? Once again, this is just for posterity, so for clarity, for someone going back and looking and wants to know what's happening. Here's what's actually happening. It's copying this content, okay, hello world with a new line. It's copying this to this file, /temp/test file.txt. And that's where it becomes notable why we're doing this, cat/temp/test file.txt, because this file didn't exist before our Ansible playbook ran, okay? So essentially this playbook created that file, as we see here, create a file with the content hello world, and then we outputted it. Easy peasy, right? So the next thing you want to ask yourself, as we were talking about before, is, okay, this looks pretty cool, and it looks fairly straightforward. I mean, we all know how to install requirements for systems and you know, base stuff and get it up and going, but I want it to be quicker, right? Okay, this is fine if I'm executing this ever so often, but when I'm debugging or I'm trying to write more Ansible code or whatnot, I need it to be faster. Okay, what can I do? That's where creating your own image, your own Docker image comes into play. And quite simply, all I needed was these 2 files to do that. So if we go into GitLab CI YAML, I would not consider this production ready because I don't have anything in here saying, hey, if it fails, remove it from the Docker registry. But for our test right here, you get to see what happens, okay? I've got 2 stages, the build image and the test image. The build image is doing nothing more than executing a Docker build, okay, with the registry name and commit name that we want to send it to. Whenever you execute that command looks for one file. It looks for the Docker file. The Docker file, as you can see, is very simple, okay? And it's really not a like a very long leap, right, from where we were looking at before. Because from CentOS, okay, it's from the CentOS Docker image, that's what that means. Maintainer, that's me, okay? Then we quite literally just use the exact same commands, right? Run, and then all these different commands. And then here is just saying, here's my entry point, okay? I did nothing special here. That's actually the entry point to the standard CentOS image. So basically all this is saying is, say, hey, use that CentOS Docker image that's out there, install this stuff, use the exact same, entry point that was there before, and I want you to create me an image on that. That's all it does. If we go and we look at the latest build, okay, notice we have 2 stages, so we see 2 there. Docker, we see the Docker build command, okay, and these are our variables that GitLab CI understands, okay, and this is what that variable ends up being: registry.gitlab.com/CArceneaux/ and then some other stuff, okay, and then the last command, the Docker push command, is actually taking that generated container image that we just created and pushing it up to the registry. In this instance, the registry exists within this GitLab project, and you can see it here. Here we go, registry. If I go here, container registry, we see C. Arceneaux, Ansible, Docker image, and I can open it up, and I can see that I've tagged this one with master. It's got a tag ID, and it was created 18 hours ago. I can delete it. Whenever you create versions of it, those versions will show up in here as well. So how do we put this together? So let's go back, okay, and this is all of our prerequisites that the image is doing for us. So let's just take those out. We'll type image, okay, and then we'll put in the container registry information to point to that container or to that Docker image that I'd created. So it's registry.gitlab.com/CArceneaux. Ansible image master. So let's save that. Using custom Docker image. Now let's do a commit. So let's go back here. Go back to our Ansible test using custom Docker image. And as I mentioned before, please, internet, don't fill me now. There we go. Okay.
Welcome to vBrownBag, where it's all live and there's always something.
Yeah. We'll roll with it, but it's working. Okay. Whoa. So remember, it was almost 2 minutes right before. Okay. That took 19 seconds. That just shows the difference. The difference is that here, whenever we go look and we see using Docker executor with image, and this is the image that I created, right? So the prerequisites were already there. Didn't need to change. And so there, I was able to test 100% just my Ansible playbook that I'd created, the Hello World, and that was very, very quick. So, and then the beautiful part, you can use that. New version of Ansible comes out, rebuild your container, right? New version of CentOS comes out, rebuild your container. New version of py-vami, comes out, which is the Python vSphere SDK. Just, rebuild your container. Your container is being built on the fly here, right? You could very easily simply adjust if you have like more requirements in the future. Just hop into your Docker file, add them. Do you not need one of these anymore? Remove it. And granted, this is like the simplest of the simple when it comes to Docker images, but I think it's a really good way to start, right? To make it not seem so daunting. So, okie dokie. So, we did the hello world, talked about GitLab CI a little bit. Let's see what else I have here. Okay, I really wanted to do the create VM from template. I literally built most of these within the past few days just playing around. And I wasn't able to get this one where I liked it, so unfortunately we won't see the create VM today. Let's do gather VM info. Okay, and you could use this for multiple VMs as well. In this instance right here, I have it specifically targeting a specific VM that is called Ansible test.tom.future.lab. That's the FQDN, which is also the VM name. Okay, we have a test account for vCenter, username and password, FQDN for vCenter, and then you'll see that I have these basically setting variables here and then pipe through. I did this really for clean sake because in the end, what you'll want to do is have like environment type variables set that don't change for specific environments. You don't have to keep re-entering this stuff. And when you do those, you can actually, you don't have to have them set into the playbook themselves. You can externally set them. If there's one thing that I would definitely do before moving something like this into production, Ansible has a Ansible Vault. I don't know if you call it software, option, whatnot, whatever. It basically allows you to encrypt your passwords. Okay. So I would recommend before not putting any passwords in clear text. Quite literally, I created this account right before we started this, and then right after we finished this, even though this is a lab, that password's going bye-bye. The whole account's going bye-bye.
So the screenshot I just took is worthless then?
Worthless, yes, worthless. Okie dokie. So now we see what this is doing. It's literally, it's gathering facts. This VMware guest facts is a built-in module for Ansible. Okay, there's a ton of built-in modules for VMware. This is just one of them that I wanted to highlight. And what we're doing here is we're getting this information. We're saving this information to a variable called facts, right? And then what this debug function does, like this, is it's actually going to output the variable, what is in that variable, the facts variable. It'll be a JSON output. So let's see what we get. I'm going to go back to my my GitLab CI .yaml, and we're going to change this. We're going to say gather VM info.yaml, and we can go ahead and leave this here, right? Because this has all of our requirements on it. Gather VM info.yaml. So gathering VM info. We'll sync back up. Okay, and let's go see what we got. Started up already. I really love the fact that, yes, it's running on containers. That's awesome. After it finishes, I don't think I mentioned this before, but after it finishes, so the job just succeeded. Now, I remember over here in this window over here, I showed y'all a Docker PS, and I showed this container. Really cool part is after it's finished doing what it's got to do, right, it cleans up after itself, right? So in real time, it's spinning up your workload. It's doing what it's doing. GitLab CI is capturing that output for you that you want to see. Okay, all that log information and whatnot. Okay, and then the GitLab runner cleans up after itself. It's a very elegant solution, I think, and very simple. It's easy to set up and has a lot of power. So here we go. Gathering VM info, setting my variables, gathering the facts from the VM. Everything happened good there. Then it got to the debug. and it's outputting that fax variable. Outputs for Ansible are in JSON, so relatively easy to read. Cool part about debug as well is you can actually set verbosity levels, right? So if you wanted to put debugs in certain areas of your playbook, I think they have the verbosity levels up to 4, okay? And what that allows you to do for the verbosity level, we can go over here real fast, is you set the verbosity level. And what that means is that whenever I go to execute the Ansible playbook, if I said that my debug variable was a verbosity level of 1, okay, if I put this space -v, okay, then that's essentially a verbosity level of 1. That means that if I did it like that and I had verbosity level of 1, then the debug output in GitLab CI would actually show what that debug was. Okay, if I had it set for that debug verbosity level 1 and I didn't put that, nothing's going to output. But then you can have different levels, like I said. So you can have up to 4 V's there, displaying certain levels of information, right? Allowing you to further debug your workflows or your playbook, getting the information you actually need without it becoming too wordy. Anywho, this kind of information for us that's used to VMware, it's not gonna look super different, right? From like maybe a git-vm, kind of output. We see here's like the annotation, the notes field for the VM. We see that it's got some snapshots. We see the updates installed snapshot, powered off, right? You see the VMware tools is running. You see the host that it's running on, network adapters, port groups, tons of information. VM files, folder where it's located at, lots of good information. So you could use, Ansible is used a lot of times, not necessarily for making changes sometimes, but for being able to reach out and quickly get a hardware snapshot like of what your environment is, right? Maybe, and you can tell it to capture only specific values and put those into a report, making your life easier. Let's see, next thing that I had up. Okay.
We have had a request for you to circle back around to that create VM from template and either show it to us tonight or come back when you get it working.
Yeah, I'll have to come back when I get it working. It is not working at the moment. I think it's permissions based, but I didn't have time before. But yes, I would love to come on again and tell you all more about some Ansible once I've made further headway. Here's a cool one. So those of us familiar with the Power CLI invoke -VM script, I tell you what, whenever I learned many years ago that there was a Power CLI commandlet that allowed me to backdoor through VMware tools a VM and execute commands, I thought that was pretty stinking cool. Okay. Would you want to change passwords this way? Maybe not, right? But I showed this just to show you all that it's possible and how it works. In this particular example, we have a CentOS VM. It's running CentOS 7. It has, like we saw in the gather VM information, it's running VMware tools and whatnot, so we should be good there. The account that we're going to be using may or may not be suggested depending on how you want to do it, but this is a test, so it don't matter. We're going to be using the root account. We want to change the root password, okay? So we see through here, we're specifying our variables, VM name, VM username, password, the new password that we want to set it to. Okay. Data center where that VM lives, the vSphere data center. vCenter, and then we have the vCenter username password like usual. This VMware VM shell is a pre-built Ansible module that you can consume. It comes by default whenever you install Ansible. All of these, I don't think I highlighted it specifically, but all of these VMware plugins all have a very similar requirement. They require that you have the Python vSphere SDK installed, which is one of the things that we installed on my custom Docker image. And the rest is just specifying stuff, right? Where is it at vCenter wise? Authentication. Okay, it's a lab. We don't have valid certs. What's the VM? What's the VM ID? In this instance, we don't have a VM ID, so we're going to use a VM name. But you can use the UID as well of the VM. Use username and password. And here is the part where it's telling it how to execute. Here's the main command, is echo. Okay. Full path to make sure that you don't have, in case the path isn't set up properly. And then this is the arguments. It's essentially echo space, and then this command right here. And this is a one-liner command, which allows you to change the password. Okie dokie. Let's go ahead and execute this. Oops, I did not mean to click delete. Okay. Save. Okay. Now, before I update this, I'll show you all. We'll go back over to our terminal session here, and we'll do an SSH. We'll say Ansible test at tom.future.lab. Oops. Root that. Oh, why did I put at? I put the ats in the wrong spots. Come on. It really doesn't like me right now. There we go. Okay, and as we saw before, the password is change me 123. And we're in. Okay, so let's exit out. Now we're going to run this.
So we have a question, is VMware Tools a requirement for this to work? Yes, yeah.
It's the exact same requirements that you'd have if you were trying to even use like the invoke-vm script commandlet. You're logging in to vCenter, and then you're going through the ESXi host, through the VMware Tools connection, and it's allowing you to execute a single line of code, or there's an option as well to copy an entire script and then execute said script. It's pretty cool. Okay. So we see we're starting up and we're executing our playbook. Changing passwords, setting the variables, and now we're running the command inside a VM, and that command is to change the password.
The chat question panel's going wild over all this. The thing that's powerful, and that there's a command invoke VM script is what you're using, but then there's also invoke command for Windows box at a PowerShell directly.
Yep. Yeah, and here's the thing. I'm showing you all the stuff specifically for Ansible with VMware, right? Ansible is super powerful administering systems directly as well, okay? So I'm just showing you one piece of the puzzle that Ansible can do. You can do a lot with it. Okay, so we see everything went okay, and we had one change, okay? So that password, if we were successful the way we should think it should have changed to this, success1 exclamation mark. So we connect, and we are in. Go back out of here. Okay. And I think that's really the ones that I wanted to show you guys. Create VM, gather. I showed y'all that one. This one is a lot more involved. I'm not going to run this one because it's got a lot going on and it takes forever. The reason I decided not to run this one is it works. But it takes forever to run because it's running across a lot of machines. So the one thing you might ask yourself, okay, so the one thing that both these Linux change password and the gather VM info have in common, okay, is they're executed against individual VMs. But you and I both know that a lot of times when we're wanting to automate something, it's because we're working with many VMs, right? So how can we do that? If it was Power CLI, we would say, git-vm with a specific, delimiter on there, filter on there, getting exactly what we want. And then we would pipe that into a variable, and then we would use those discovered VMs to actually go do something. So how can we do that with Ansible, okay? And this is what I've come up with thus far. So it's, once again, using the VMware VM facts, okay? But it's not calling for a specific VM. It's gathering all the VMs, okay? So we see the VMware VM facts, and it's gathering all the VMs. You can select all VM or template here, and so it'll gather all VMs and templates. It'll gather just VMs, or it'll gather both, and then it's saving it to a variable. After this point, that variable is passed on down here, and here's where we got some fancy Ansible looping going on, okay? So at the very bottom, we say with dictionary, and it's calling VM facts. If you did an output of VM facts, remember it's JSON, all the information it gathered is underneath a .virtual_machines item. And so that's why we have vmfacts.virtualmachines. And that's the thing saying, hey, loop through these, right? And then this right here, this when, is saying, hey, I don't want you to do any of this stuff right here, okay, unless the thing that you're currently evaluating fulfills these things, right? And in this one, I've said, hey, okay, the guest OS name here is, and this is just a simple search that Ansible allows you to do. If it, and I found it is case sensitive. It says, hey, if there's CentOS in the guest name, yes, okay. Here's another one. If it's in the lex-mgmt cluster, okay, cool. If the power state of it is powered on, okay. So if your VM matches these three items, okay, it's going to do whatever it says in here, okay. You can also specify failure criteria, okay. So here, it's the exact same information we saw in the previous, with the difference of that it's powered off, okay. Because what I'm trying to do in here is I'm trying to actually execute some code through that back door we talked about in the last demo I showed you, okay. So if it's powered off, it's obviously not going to work. And so that to save ourselves some time, this right here automatically says, yeah, it's powered off, okay. Don't even worry about it, but include it in my failure list whenever you're showing me the results. shows the results here. I mean, it logs the results to a variable called results, and then displays it in debug. And that's it. Yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, we've got some more conversation here. Can you
Okay.
pull back return values for failures?
Now that's the interesting thing. So here is, I haven't tested extensively, but I can tell you this. Okay, if the invoking of the code or the script fails to execute, meaning you're sending that call to vCenter and you tried to execute it. If it fails to execute at like the vCenter level, okay, it 100% fails. Okay, but from what I've seen, because this is actually, and I actually saw this from checking these results right here. What I've seen is that whenever it does come back, like it says, hey, I successfully executed, right? Invoke-VM script will give you the output from that console. Okay, so if you did, if you're using the power CLI command that you said invoke-VM script, the return from that PowerShell will show you whatever the output was from that console session that it opened. You do not get that with the Ansible VMware VM shell. Okay, I have to do some more investigation to see if that's really a limitation or a caveat, depending on, because it might be that you can simply make sure that you have proper error handling in that code you're passing over, and it might be that it's smart enough to say, hey, the code failed, right? It generated an error on the OS, and so Ansible receives an error. I have not tested that yet. I plan to, though. Good question. That was really the stuff that I had to share with y'all guys. Tom, was there any other questions that you saw that people had asked that we haven't considered yet?
Yeah, there's one more. Can't you build a task to create an Ansible host file, then run the task against that?
So I am not an Ansible expert. I'll say that first off. From what I've seen, and I could be totally wrong on this. I could be totally wrong. Okay, you should be able to use the gather VM info, right, to do kind of what you're talking about, where you gather you gather the VM, like the VM information matching certain criteria, right, not whatnot, and put that in a file. I would hope you could do that. Thus far, where I have seen the Ansible host file used has not been in a VM type situation. I've seen the Ansible host file used whenever Ansible is actually reaching out directly to that operating system to do something. Okay, so you'll notice that I'm not the only host that I specify here is localhost, and that's because I'm executing all this stuff through the API, right? Ergo, it's not connecting to another host to do it. I don't know what that would look like, right? My gut is telling me that dealing with VMware and VMs, if you're going to go through the back door, you're trying to deal with VMs directly using Ansible like that, not going through the OS side to the Windows or Linux side, that the host file might not apply to this. Now, you might be able to generate, like I said, a file containing VM names, and then use that similar to like a host file, with the exception that you wouldn't call it out in the host tier, but you would do something like this, where you would use a dictionary loop referencing said file after you've read it into memory or something like that. But I do not know that answer for sure.
All right. Any suggestions for where to store Ansible facts, like a DSIM, SCOM, AWX, or other?
I do not know. I don't know, but my testing thus far has been basic and limited to this. The method that I'm choosing to use for Ansible, given and obviously that can change, is that I don't have an actual Ansible server, right? I'm spinning up my Ansible server on the fly using GitLab CI, which I think has some big benefits, as well as enforcing the fact that all of your Ansible code that you execute are 100% under version control, right? Because that's another problem that I have with some people with automation, or with some people that don't like to share, is they write code and they leave it on their machine and they don't share it, and it's not under proper version control. This kind of forces people to use that. Now, I see where you're going with that question. That is something that I want to solve for, right? And there's probably someone who else has already done it, the ability to get that information, get those facts like you're talking about, and output them to an external server that is not an Ansible server, but maybe a file share or something, right? That then in the GitLab CI/CD workflow, it calls that. It calls those environment type stuff. Now, I will mention this. If it's just simple variables, okay, if it's not like Ansible facts, they do have the ability to create variables in GitLab CI. Settings, CI/CD, variables. See variables here? Expand, and it's key value store. Okay, if I put hello here, and I said the answer, the actual value for that variable name is hello. Okay, for instance, in a Bash environment, so CentOS Docker image, if I reference that saying $hello, that's what it's going to output on the back end. Also, I don't want to go too far off the topic, but this protected does not mean that it's stopping people from being able to see your variable. I learned that the hard way through GitLab documentation. It clearly states that this protected checkmark means that you can only use this variable if the Git branch that the code is being executed on is a protected branch. It's a little confusing for me. I don't think that was the proper terminology, but hey, it is what it is. I will say that you have to be a maintainer or an owner of a GitLab project in order to reveal what these variables are, or to set variables in general.
So you would use that as a like a credential store, or what would you?
You could, yeah. You could also use this as your way of, if there was like, singular values, right? Simple values of, vCenter host name, or there actually is a method that I've kind of looked into this. We talked about the Ansible Vault briefly for encrypting passwords. There's a way that you can encrypt the Ansible Vault, use Ansible Vault to encrypt the password into a string, right? And then you can insert that string into your Ansible playbook. Okay, and maybe a way that you insert that string is you have, password, and then for the value, it's even here, it's not even clear text. It's that that encrypted string, right? That ends up getting passed to your Ansible playbook. So yeah, you could use it for a number of things.
I'm not seeing anything else from there. That's a lot of great information, though, Chris. I had no idea what it could do. I knew GitLab, but I didn't know it could do all this.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you this. I've only scratched the surface, guys. I mean, I've been enjoying this stuff and learning more about it, but GitLab is incredibly powerful. I'm impressed. I really am. Okay. if you run most of your stuff today on GitHub, okay, something that is very, very similar to GitLab CI, but you can only use it for open source projects, is Travis CI. It's very similar in as it comes to GitLab CI, in that it works off of a YAML file, a Travis CI YAML file that is on each of your Git repos. Okay, and that's what tells Travis CI what to do. As long as you're using now, GitLab CI will allow you to use it for private, public, whatever. It's free goodness. Okay, Travis CI will only allow you to use it for free if it's an open source project on GitHub, and it only supports GitHub. But just an alternative for you guys out there wanting to look at something else.
So is GitLab CI tightly integrated, or can you use GitLab CI against other repos, not just GitLab repos?
Tightly integrated. I believe, don't quote me on this, I think if you're using the highest tier, I swear I saw something about that. If you're using the highest tier of GitLab, they allow you to use GitLab CI on GitHub. Okay, but outside of that, it's pretty much, it is what it is. Oh, wait. Second highest tier. CI/CD for GitHub. All right. Free, bronze, silver, gold. I don't think that's their names anymore. Maybe they moved it. So, no. I guess they changed them. I swear I looked at this the other day and they were different. I swear it said ultimate or something for the. Or maybe, there you go. Okay, self-managed. I thought I was going crazy there for a second. Their pricing is the same for, and you get pretty much the same resources whether you're going self-managed or GitLab.com. The big difference, I think, if you're going self-managed versus not, is I think if you're doing GitLab.com, you see they limit this when they say CI pipeline. They're talking about those shared runners we talked about. So if you're running the free version, they limit you to 2,000 minutes per group per month. That's more than enough for most developers, right? I mean, the stuff we did here, well, this whole demonstration was probably, I don't know, 10, 20 hops, 2,000's a lot. Also, I read something the other day that if you're supporting open source projects, like that's all you're doing, or you're a student, okay, you can actually get the gold tier or the ultimate tier, your choice, for free. Both of those groups get it for free. They really want you to use GitLab. And it's a pretty good product, I have to say. I have nothing against GitHub at all. I truthfully don't care that Microsoft bought them. But GitLab has been solid for us. And we, like I said, at my company, we have we use their community, like the free version of their on-prem product, and it's solid. Super easy upgrades. It's very good.
The language involved with it makes a little more sense than GitHub too, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is that you got to get used to is GitHub says pull requests and GitLab says merge requests. There's a couple other things like that, but yeah, if you're familiar with GitHub, it will not be hard for you to get familiar with GitLab as well. Notice though too, even for free people, unlimited private projects and collaborators, even for the free version. Whereas on GitHub, as you probably know, you can't have private projects unless you pay at least for, I think there's like a small, like $7 a month developer edition or whatnot for GitHub.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate you showing us all this, and the discussion around it's been great, everyone. Do you mind showing us your contact info and pushing anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate everything you saw today. I'm going to have blogs. I think it's going to be more than just one to cover the different aspects that I talked about today. But check out my blog, follow it, follow me. You follow me on Twitter. I'll post whenever the blogs come out, and then you'll be able to consume them. By the way, side note, I have Travis CI automating deployment for my blog. So, and it's available publicly on my GitHub account. So, if y'all wanted to check that stuff out, it's just I really love free automation.
All right, that's great. Yeah, everybody check that out. You actually have a blog about Travis CI publishing your blog, right?
I do, and it's referencing some good blogs from you, Tom, and from Mike Tabor as well. Got to stand on the shoulders of people to produce even better stuff.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've been meaning to implement that in my own work since it's phase 3 of a series we all wrote. So yeah, that's gonna do it for us tonight. And thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. And thanks again, Chris. This was a fantastic show.
Thanks a lot, guys. Good being here. Thanks for coming.